What up, everybody? In one of Ghost's final scenes before getting shot by Tariq in Power Season 6, Episode 10, he had a hallucination of Kanan. As Kanan told Ghost that ain't none of this real, that none of what Ghost was doing changes who he was, that he was a bad guy just like Kanan. When Ghost replied to Kanan that it was Kanan who made him this way, the clean version of Ghost, the businessman, was who Ghost really was, as he told Kanan specifically, if I was born somewhere else, if I wasn't raised by you, I'm in business school somewhere. So this statement indicated that Kanan played a major role in raising Ghost. This was also hinted at by Jukebox in Season 3 of Power, when she thought it was Ghost who had killed Sean, and she asked Kanan, why would he send his son in there against a man Kanan raised to be a gangster? So this lets us know that Ghost's gangster side was highly shaped by Kanan's start. Ghost had even told Sean that it was Kanan who brought him to his first chop shop. But just like Kanan was influenced growing up and raising Kanan by multiple people, his mother Rock and his uncles, amongst others who played a role in shaping Kanan into what he ultimately becomes. When we're talking about raising Ghost, there was also multiple people involved in this. And there's 4 key players that come to my mind. First, there's Kanan, like I just finished talking about, who helped shape Ghost's ruthless gangster side. Like he once told Ghost in Power, Ghost was the meanest kid he ever met. So this is something that Kanan used to shape Ghost into becoming the soldier he needed him to be, until Ghost took everything Kanan ever taught him and used it against him. There's also Ghost's father, whose words, even though they didn't stop Ghost from getting into the game, ultimately likely played a big factor in the fact that Ghost always had a plan to eventually get out the game. After Ghost's father died, he went to live with Kate Egan, so that experience also shaped Ghost in some ways. The experience of living with an addict like Kate. Keeping in mind at some point when Ghost was young, he deals with substance abuse issues as well, with a drinking problem, and that's why he had been sober for several years at the beginning of the Power timeline. We also know Ghost's father drinking was part of the reason why he was trying to be clean to be sober for his kids, unlike his father, and growing up around Kate probably also influenced Ghost when it came to this also, only for Ghost to end up becoming what he didn't want to be, as Tariq saw him wasted several times and specifically said he didn't drink because he didn't want to be like Ghost. Ironically, the same thing Ghost once said about his own father. But the 4th person who I think had a part in raising Ghost and Ghost becoming who he did is Breeze. As Ghost told Tariq that he didn't want to kill Breeze, that he loved Breeze, but Breeze got in the way of his future. The other version of this conversation showed Ghost telling Tariq that Breeze was a brother, family to him. So through these couple statements, we also know that Ghost and Breeze were also close. Something that I pointed out in other videos, that I don't feel like Tommy was close to Breeze, but Ghost was. I feel like Breeze likely looked at Ghost as a protege. I feel like Breeze saw Ghost as somebody he could take under his wing as a little brother type. The fact it was Breeze who gave James St. Patrick the nickname Ghost says a lot about how close these two once were. Because the fact you're not going to let just anybody give you a nickname, but somebody that you have respect for. And the fact that Breeze gave Ghost his nickname in the 90s and it followed him for about 20 years also says a lot. Then there's also the fact that Breeze has braids in Raising Kanan Season 5 and that we know Ghost wears braids in Origins. So Ghost wearing braids could even be part of how Ghost was influenced by Breeze. And something interesting about Ghost having braids on the Origins timeline is that in the 1996 scene at the end of Power, it was actually Tommy who had the braids and Ghost had short hair. So I also wonder if they're going to keep the continuity from the 1996 scene, or are they going to retcon it with the new actors? And because we know Origins is taking place in the early 2000s, not the 1990s, The only way we would see different actors in that time period is if Raising Kanan has a significant time jump in season 5. So if they keep the continuity from the 1996 scene, this is saying a whole lot about how Ghost and Tommy were each influenced by Breeze and Kanan respectfully. As I brought up before, I feel like Ghost connected more with Breeze and had more in common with Breeze, while Tommy had more in common with Kanan. The fact that Tommy and Kanan were both raised by a single mother being one of those things they had in common, and both of them loving the streets is another. But if Ghost had short hair in 96 and grows his hair out to have braids like Breeze after they meet, also says a lot about the respect that Ghost had for Breeze. While the fact that Tommy had similar hairstyle to Breeze when they met but changed his hair to be short like Kanan has his hair in Origins is also interesting. Then there's the fact that when Snaps Henry introduced Breeze, he called him a visionary, a scholar, and one of the brightest minds you'll ever see. And this goes right along with what we know about Ghost from when he was young, as he was known as a bookworm who always had his face in the books. So Breeze probably used Ghost's natural intelligence and book smarts to teach Ghost how to be strategic and move in the game. Something else in regards to Ghost being called book smart, when Jukebox found out that Ghost was who messed up Kanan, she said he let that book smart motherfucker beat him, potentially hinting that Ghost and Kanan had a little bit of an underlying competition going back to back in the days. And this could have been rooted in the fact that Kanan noticed that Breeze was bonding with Ghost and taking him under his wing. And when we're talking about Ghost being influenced by Breeze, one of the clips from the trailer when it shows Breeze playing chess also shows him dressed in professional attire, just like we know Ghost used to walk around in his suits and professional attire to put on the public image that he was a legit businessman. This could have also been something that Ghost learned from Breeze to have two faces, one private and one public, like RSJ said to Tariq. And this could have also been something Ghost learned from Breeze. Unlike Kanan and Tommy, who only have one face and are all gangster all the time and don't pretend to be anything else. And when it comes to having two faces and looking legit, just like Ghost had the clubs and the laundromats, we see in the Raising Kanan Season 5 teaser that Breeze also has a place of business. And unlike Tommy and Kanan, as Kanan had the car wash and Tommy invested with Ghost, they simply did it to clean their money. I can see Breeze, much like Ghost, getting dressed up in business attire and going into the office every day like he's a legit businessman. Keeping in mind it was said that Breeze's weakness was always keeping the same routine. So because of that, they always knew where he was going to be. So as Ghost ultimately eliminates Breeze, just like Kanan told Ghost that he took everything Kanan ever taught him and used it against him, at the end of the day, as Breeze likely took Ghost under his wing as his protege, he could likely say the same thing about Ghost taking him off the board as well. That Ghost took everything Breeze taught him and used it against him. And there you have it. Leave your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments.